We won't take anything from you other than $750 to do a design, a rendering, a plan. I want to know how many screws I need on this project. I want to know how many steps
That's
it
your
is from-
pre-construction agreement, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But we've had clients come to us and been like, listen, the deck is 12 by 12. It's right outside. And we're like, no, we're doing this because there's no way you're coming to me later and saying, I don't know that's what it was going to look like.
Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today I'm joined with Josh Ferri from Lakeside Decking Co. It's conveniently labeled on his left pec.
Yeah.
You'll see that in the social shorts. Thanks for coming in, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
Right in Long Lake, so you're like 15 minutes from my office.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, welcome to Curious Builder HQ.
Yeah, this is an awesome place.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Really cool.
Well, what you got? Losers or winners? I gave you the option between, actually I'm kind of rebranding it a little bit. The story of the scar. It's like you've got scars on your hands, and it's like they just have way better reaction. I actually find it hard to think of like inside the wins.
We try and like track our wins as best as we can, but you're right. It's hard because the wins are always like either really big or like they're just tiny little ones here and there, but they're what makes the company. But the losses are like, oh, I got a bunch of those.
But that's what you learn from. I mean, I think we celebrate the loss. It's not. I don't even like the word loss or failure, right? I mean, it's kind of clickbaity, but really, it's the hard miles. It's the hard work. Think about like exercise or fitness. It's the hard work that you put in that yields the healthy result.
Well, there's a show on HBO called Shrinking. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have seen.
It's psychiatrists and other things, and there's one scene where a guy says. I have a lot of scars, and his therapist is like, what a shame to be 40-something and not have any. And I'm only 31, but still, like, there's a lot of them, which is, I think, what makes a good company.
How long have you had your company?
So I founded my company in 2016. We were a cabinet building company called Garage Shop Designs, and then I realized I wanted to do decks and outdoor living instead. So in about 2022, very early 2022, I just changed the name, and then no more, only decks.
I'm curious, what led to that pivot?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot more money in decks than there is in cabinets.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, that's just, and so I also realized that decks are very interesting because they're the one niche of the construction industry where you can see every facet of the construction industry. There can be plumbing, there can be electrical, there can, not so much drywall, but there can be everything, but everything that you do is on display. You can see the framing from the below. You can see the decking up top. You can see the railing. So any imperfections are full, front and center. So if you're somebody who's meticulous, like a cabinet builder, for instance, deck building comes, if you want to make high-end decks, it comes really naturally. And also working outside is much better. That's all.
Yeah, except when it's minus 20.
We do it all year round.
I know. We love our state here. In fact, it's funny because yesterday, the day we're recording this is a Monday. Yesterday it was like 80.
Yep.
I was like, actually in one day I went from like, I kind of miss the cold already. Like, I don't like it when it's hot and muggy.
Yeah, I know.
Want it perfect. How, one more question on that, just because now I'm really interested in your business because I don't know that much about it. Do you stay just in decking? I mean, does it go into 4-season, 3-season? Does it go into landscaping? I mean, I imagine there's some scope creep there.
Absolutely. We call outdoor living.
Yes.
So we're Lakeside Decking. We do porches, pavers. We'll do lots of louvered pergolas, outdoor kitchens, retractable screens. But yeah, almost all those touch on the decking or the outdoor living space. So,
and how often would you also subcontract with like a custom home builder like myself?
So
a lot of times, at least this is how I do it. I'm curious in our market. So typically, if I'm building a home, like I'm having I'm managing it, right? My framer will usually then do the deck, or a trimmer, or obviously I'm a GC, so I've got all the people. Landscaping, I've got landscape architects, things like that. But there are certain times where it's like, a company that would just do that. It seems like that would be.
So it's funny you mentioned that because that's actually what I emailed you about originally to be on the podcast was how we think that custom home builders should be utilizing specialists in the outdoor living field because you guys, no offense, but it's hard to keep up with all the changes that are constantly happening. There's new materials, there's new privacy rails, there's new this, there's new that, and it's my job to keep up on those all the time. So while your deck building crew may be good at building a whole bunch of stuff, my crews are only deck builders. That is all they do all day long, pergolas, screen-in porches, and they've gotten really good at it. So for what clients are paying for custom homes, it's the same thing as like no offense, but you wouldn't have the drywall or do the plumbing.
You mentioned before your previous career, a cabinet shop.
Yeah.
A trimmer could build cabinets, as they often do, but I mean, a cabinet shop is really good at staying the latest and greatest on cabinet hardware and all that kind of stuff, and also supply and demand. But I think recently, like, I love saunas, both myself, but also as kind of we've pivoted to a lot of wellness-based home building and how we're trying to augment people's lifestyles. But we just partnered with a company out in Utah called Symmetry, and as good as we are, like, even architects, like, they're good, very talented. Not that they can't do it, but like, if all you build is high-end saunas and design them all around the country, all around the world, like, don't you think you're probably better at that one niche? So now we are outsourcing our design for just a sauna. It makes total sense that you would have a specialty in, you know, decking, pergolas, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and working with Lakeside Decking, we take a very consultative approach. So we're going to be the first to tell you if something's a bad idea that you, as a builder, might not be thinking about later on. That we're going to be telling our clients, we would tell you the same thing. So, for instance, we would tell our clients, like, don't do X because you're going to own this home for 10 years. It sounds great. Instagram said it was such a great idea. I'm telling you, it's a bad idea. Whereas you're going to leave that home. You might interact with that client, but in 10 years from now, you're not going to be seeing what's actually happening. So I can't tell you how many decks we replace on very fancy custom homes where, I'm not saying this is you, but drywall screws were used to put in the joist hangers. And nobody knew because there's a ceiling and a porch, and
it's all hidden, covered.
It's all hidden and covered. And nothing, obviously, you can't use drywall screws to build a deck, but, you know, the deck was built well. It just wasn't built by a deck builder. So
yeah, specificity. All right, let's get to some of these lost lessons. What are some things that you've learned? I mean, even the transition between cabinet shop to, you know, the decking is interesting too.
That was interesting, but it wasn't a huge hurdle. The biggest lesson for me was hiring, I would say. It's when I came out of school, college, I had a mentor who taught me a lot about hiring, but one thing that stuck with me was that he likes to hire for character and train for skill. And that was a great lesson, except I took the wrong lesson from that. I took the find people you like and then train them for skill. The problem is if you hire for character and they don't have the character that could also build the skill, then you've just hired a bunch of friends and you're
That's
screwed.
Awesome.
So last year we were on a big growth trajectory. You know, we were really coming to our own with our reputation and the clientele that we were wanting to service. And I was like, oh, I need a project manager. I need a project coordinator. We've got multiple projects going on at one time. And you know, I've got to stop doing all the sales and other things. So I hired people, and they were good people. They just weren't, I didn't prepare them well enough. It really falls back on me, as, you know, a lot of the losses can be pointed back at us as owners and thinking we can do it all. My main problem was that I didn't set them up for success. I viewed it as, oh, this person's doing a job that I no longer have to do, and now I can go do blank. So now we're back into a growth trajectory. We got rid of those people. We need to hire again, and we're taking it much slower. We've learned a lot from those lessons as far as not only who to look for, but how to set them up for success. We belong to a business coaching program called Legacy Decks Academy, which me and Allison just got back from our quarterly with them. And the only question I was asking people was, how did you set your PM up for success? Because I'm not going to make that mistake twice. So,
how big is the company now in terms of people?
So right now, standing in this room is 50% of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's only 4 of us on staff. We have 4 crews. My dad operates as our fractional CFO, but yeah, people that come into the office, 4.
Yep. And so, and then are you subcontracting then all the labor, or is any of the labor in-house?
So it's 1099, but it's all in-house. They're, you know, Lakeside Decking guys, Lakeside Decking shirts, stuff like that.
Yep. The reason I ask is just like, I mean, I think every owner has had similar issues with scaling and going forward and then 2 steps back. And, you know, right now, I don't know if you've gotten there yet, but like, what is your interview process?
So how
has it changed? I should probably...
Yeah. So our interview process before was how quickly can we interview and how quickly can we fill the seat. Allison, who is my admin and my integrator, she was the first person I hired for her role and the only person I offered the job to. I canceled all the other interviews and it worked out perfectly. I had a gut feeling and I was like, you're the one, let's do this. Didn't work out so well with project manager. So this time, before we interviewed 5 or 6 people or whatever, but this time I did a hiring funnel, which was, it was there was a job description, but at the bottom of the job description, it said, you will not be considered for this position if you don't send in a video saying why you want the role and what other question. But you had to read the whole thing before you got there.
Out of curiosity,
I had 87 applicants and only 7 people sent in the video. So that made my job a lot easier. I only have to focus on 7 people. Because if you don't read the whole thing,
right,
then I can't expect you to read plans. I can't. So then the people who sent in the video, there I was a little more judgmental as far as like, can I see this person working here? Do I feel like they're going to be a good culture fit? The skill test is already done as far as like good enough to interview. They've sent in the video, but just because you can send in a video doesn't mean you can talk to clients. And that's what I was really looking for in the video was, can I see you talking to clients? Because when something goes wrong, and it will, it's construction, I need you to be able to deliver really bad news. And then from there, I narrowed it down to 4 people. We interviewed 4. We're doing a second round on 2 tomorrow, actually, and then we'll see.
Will it be the 2 of you interviewing them jointly, or how do you do your final interviews?
First interview is me and Allison. Mm-hmm. Second interview is Carlos, my designer, and Nick, my sales guy, and then we're going to compare notes and decide.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I love the story you said about the sales funnel. I've heard that recently about the video. We've just recently, only because it's fun, have you gotten into like personality tests or anything like that?
Yes, we're big into that. Like, what is it, Colby, yeah. Mm-hmm. The Colby, and then there is, what's the other one? Yeah, Enneagram.
Yeah.
She remembers. I don't remember the names.
Yeah.
And we even went as far as like creating a list of like, here's how Josh and Carlos should communicate. Here's how Josh and Nick should communicate. Here's how Nick and Carlos should communicate. Do we look at it all the time? No, but it's there.
Well, and it's funny that you say that. So I have a team of 5 right now, and we just did it. There's one of our potential future sponsors for the Contractor Coalition Summit, which is going to be out in Denver here by the time this airs, probably within a week of it. But they do it for all of their hires, and I think it's great. I love understanding. I've done these in the past with my team. It's hard to know what to do with the information.
Yeah.
Like it's very accurate. You're like, wow, I feel like I'm reading a horoscope that's like oddly specific to me. Like this is crazy. And it's cool that any one company, like we did the disc assessment a few years ago, where we've got the red, yellow, blue, and green.
Yeah.
And as a team, we actually were equally distributed in all 4 quadrants, which is that's super healthy. But then what do you do with it?
Exactly.
And that's always been my hang up, like, what do you do with it? And so it'll be interesting to see working with this company is like, how do they train? How do they integrate with it? And the way they want us to use it is I would actually have you, as if you're my subcontractor on my decks, moving forward, it'd be like, I would interview you would take it. Your people would take it.
Yeah.
Everyone, you can go up to like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And so, and then they kind of counsel you on like how to utilize it. Because that's always been a hang up on like, well, what do you do with this?
Well, because it's somewhat like, I also take it with a little bit of grain of salt because it's somewhat like a horoscope where you're reading it and you're like, you're right, I do that. But you don't. You're like, you think you do it. But also, it's like, oh, all right, great. Now I just need to type this into ChatGPT and find out what to do with it. But it does help because what I look for is how to communicate with that person. If that person doesn't do well over text or needs a lot of visuals. So one of the questions I ask when I'm interviewing people is, how do you learn? Are you visual, audio? You gotta try it once, mess it up, try it again. How do you learn? And that tells me a lot about how I should structure their onboarding, because if I just sit them in front of a computer but they're a hands-on person, they're gonna have a terrible onboarding.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. I don't think anyone ever gets it 100% right. Even if you do all this stuff, if you had, and there are very talented companies that help you source people, and it's probably better than not. But like with Allison, you lightning a bottle. You made the right decision. She ended up being the right decision. And so I felt very much that way too. I've had, I think, 5 or 6 controllers in my 22-year career, and I've had 3 stellar ones, 2 average, and 2 poor.
Yeah.
And so, but the point in bringing it up is I decided recently, probably about 2 years ago, that I will never interview, or I'll actually never hire someone else in my career. Me personally. Our company will obviously continue to hire people.
Yeah.
But I just find that I'm a little bit more I'm like a dog at a dog park. I haven't met a dog I don't want to chase a ball with.
Right.
And so it's like I am just it makes me great at remodeling, makes me good at sales, makes me good at connecting with people, makes me terrible.
That might be a bad hire. Yeah.
I mean, and so the other thing too is like you're so excited have you ever done this when you're interviewing people? You basically are telling them all the things to tell you back.
Yeah.
And then they do, and you're like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we do like technological advances at our company. We spent a lot of time working with Claude on creating actual questions based on the troubles we've had before, how to suss out those from the interviewee, and then also taking their resume, creating questions that fit our core values. Because if you're not a core value fit, then it doesn't matter. If you're not a driven learner and doer, which is our first core value, are you gonna when all new railing comes out, are you gonna be like, no, I want to work with the railing that we have right now, or are you gonna be like, yeah, let's learn about the new railing and figure out how to install it? So we used Claude to help us create interview questions that both sussed out the problems and figured out whether or not they were going to be a good culture fit.
What are some, if you think back in your career here, what are some either financial mistakes that you've made or literally building mistakes? I mean, I'm just thinking of the railings are no jokes, right? There's some serious life safety stuff here. I'm thinking like a second or third, someone leans in the railing falls off. We're talking about some pretty serious liability here.
Yeah. Well, we do have a philosophy that we tell us to our clients, boldface, I never want to see you again. If I see you again, we have a problem. Like I'm not in
That's
a service.
That's a great sales line.
I'm not in the service. My sales guy Nick, he actually owned a decking company before he came to work with me. We've been friends for a very long time, and he says it also. We just believe it. If I see you again, we have a problem. I'm not a plumber. There's no service contract here. So my guys know that wherever you could use a 1.5-inch screw, you should use a 3-inch screw so we never have to come back. Stuff like that. The biggest, you name it, there's a financial mistake there. I bought a $5,000 forklift off Facebook Marketplace.
How'd that go?
We use it. It's pretty cool, but it's a piece of crap. I bought a trailer at an auction from the city of Minneapolis, and it's a piece of crap. Like there hasn't been any that were like, obviously the same mistakes any builder gets into when all of a sudden you're getting checks for $21,000 and stuff like that. You have the money to pay for the materials, and you're like, oh man, we can get a couple new drills here, and and you're just spending your profit early. That's probably the biggest mistake. Now we utilize the system. If you're familiar, Profit First for contractors.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So we do that.
Good for you, man. That's impressive.
Yeah, we have our expense account, our income account, our client account, our taxes, and our
So for those that haven't listened to it, Michael McCallowitz has a book called Profit First. They have a Profit First for contractors specifically, right?
Yes.
I actually haven't. I should read that one. How many years in business were you before you read that book? And then, or how did you hear about it?
So when I was building the business and I switched over to Lakeside Decking, my dad has been in business for a very long time. He's very savvy with money and all those things. But after a while, it got to the point where he was like, I can give you as much advice as you want, but I have no idea how to run a crew. I own a software company. I don't know what screws you should use on this, So I was like, okay, I need external help. And that's when I went down the business coach route. And one of the first things my business coach did was, his name is Chris. He said, he actually almost didn't let me in. He was like, you're almost too new. Like you need to
fail a few times.
But he was like, here's a list of things you can do, and then I'll decide. And so I was like, okay. And I'm a very fast reader, so I read all 3 books and then figured out the debt situation with my lumberyard at that point. And one of the books was Profit First.
Yeah.
So I implemented it very early. And then I actually, when my dad became our fractional CFO, I made him read it also. I was like, we got to be speaking the same language, because banking accounts for a software company very different than how contractors have to use it, because unfortunately contractors are not known for good financial expertise.
No, and I think there's so much opportunity. It's one of the things that we try to do on the show a lot. I mean, I didn't know the difference between markup and margin till you're 18. That's shocking. I've left millions of dollars on the table. And the reason I talk about it so often is to remove the stigma, because we are a very successful high-end company. Like, I would like to think like our brand is well known.
Yeah.
But like, I make that mistake. I don't want lack of information or lack of education to be the reason why, because we all work too hard. We try to do such a good job for our clients that not knowing the difference shouldn't be whether you make it or not.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate enough that we were able to make it, even though I didn't know that. I mean, for those that don't know the difference, go look it up. But it's about 2%. And you can do the math. I mean, let's say you did 20 million, 100 million. I mean, think of how many 2%. It starts to add up a lot.
Yeah.
And
if you lose that quickly, you're
I mean, ultimately, as soon as you understand what you're worth, and it's about value, really. And does your client, like, I love the line. What did your client say when you look at them in the eye and say, I never want to see you again? And do you say it with like a little
chuckle,
bit of...
They chuckle, and I say it as like, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. I never want to see you again. Like, I say it like that.
I love hearing
this.
But
there's one other thing that we tell our clients. When they say like, oh, you're more expensive than the next guy or whatever that may be, we tell them, okay, listen, I know my numbers. I know my numbers really well. It's the first thing we do, January 1st every year, set the budget, find our markup, find our margin. What's that going to be? In fact, I use the line like, I know what my markup is so I can hit this margin. And I use them both in the same sentence like last week. And that was the first time. So it takes a while to get used to it. But what we tell our clients is, I have to charge this much so that in 10 years, when a railing comes loose, your uncle's drunk and hits it and the panel's rattling, you call me and the laundromat doesn't answer because I didn't charge you properly and now I'm out of business. So there's a lot of contractors out there who you're never going to hear from them again in the wrong way. I never want to see you again. I never want to hear from you again unless you're referring. Maybe we can have a beer or something like that. But if I do, I want you to be able to get a hold of me. But if I don't charge you properly, you won't be able to.
I think that's very well said. I mean, something that comes across very clearly in just talking with you is how competent and how accurate you are.
Thank you.
And just like your personality. Even if I didn't know that, I would just be like, this is somebody I trust who's got their stuff together.
Yeah.
I think that's what's unique specifically is your particular niche of construction, being decking, although it expands to a lot of other things. People probably aren't used to that level of specificity or that level of professionalism. I mean, they hardly expect it from our industry, period.
Yeah.
I certainly imagine that if I'm building someone a $5 to $10 million house, they certainly expect it out of me.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that a lot of my peers don't do it either.
Well,
and so like if you're, you know what I'm saying? Like just because something is smaller doesn't mean it can't be run more efficiently.
Absolutely. But also if I went out your door right now and I threw a rock, I'll hit 4 deck builders. So and of those 4 deck builders, there's 6 different opinions. So there's a lot of us. So it can be very difficult to carve your name out. What I've also been finding recently is that a lot of our clients, when I'm getting feedback from Nick, the reason that he's winning against 5 other bids is because he's telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And he's giving them value, and he's making them realize, here's why $10,000 less than what I'm talking about doesn't make any sense. Who's $10,000 coming out of your pocket or theirs? I promise you it's not theirs. But what we're finding is a lot of clients are more on social media, or they're watching the news. They heard about Brusco, they heard about, whatever, and they're much more wary of the lower bid these days. Much more wary because they have just heard so many times. Either we're getting more millennial clients, or or whatever that may be, where they've heard about their neighbor having a tragic story with a contractor who took their money and ran, and they're really trying to avoid that. Now, there's still a lot of deck builders out there, so it can be really hard to get above the fold, but it's actually becoming, I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, it's becoming easier to sell a more expensive product if you can back it up.
I think it's all about value proposition and storytelling. I think the more effective we can share our story and what we believe in, and people give you a small amount of time. Where are you getting most of your leads from? Is that coming from direct mailers, word of mouth, social media?
Yeah. No, most of our leads are still going to be, honestly, SEO. Allison rebuilt our website, and it's fantastic. And then Google and Facebook advertising.
Yeah.
Mailers have never worked for us. And one thing that's been very good for us is home shows, but not the home and garden show. Nothing's wrong with it. It's downtown. A lot of people from the West Metro are not going to it. So maybe when we get bigger and we're trying to service a larger area, it might make more sense. But smaller home shows, the Eden Prairie Home Show or the Maple Grove Home Show, or we'll do Apple Days this year in Excelsior. We'll also do Art on the Lake, and those are amazing for us.
I think what's so cool about your profession specifically is it's a little bit like quantity. I probably do 4 to 5 projects a year, and it takes me several years, if not longer, to get those clientele, right? I don't know what percentage of homes have a deck, but let's just say
a lot of them.
Yeah, 60, 70%
I actually
of them,
joke. It's a crude joke, but I make it like crack houses in Minnesota have decks on them.
Yeah, they really need help.
They all do. But to your point, we're definitely not a volume builder. So you can, there's pros and cons, but you can follow 2 different business styles in deck building. You can follow production or you can follow custom. It almost depends on where you're at. When I got into this business, I set up in Wayzata and I was like, okay, doors are open. Who needs a deck? Just based on the fact that I was in Wayzata, I was around the lake, I was getting a lot more of these larger projects. So I kind of fell into that side of the business. And we're not super competitive in the smaller production style decks. Not that anything's wrong with them, but we realized to service the higher end clientele, we needed to offer X number of services. We needed to, what we call our white glove deck building service. And there's a premium for that we just ended up not being super competitive in the smaller space. But that's why I bring it back to my other point. We're starting to be really not competitive, but we're starting to get these smaller decks, because even if it's only a $35,000 deck and the other guy was bidding you at 20, like,
people also want to know who they can refer. I would imagine real estate agents would actually be a very viable future source, just from the standpoint that, if someone wants a custom home or a remodel of certain, like even us, like we have limits on how low we can go on a remodel, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually refer a lot of remodel work to people in our Curious Builder collectives, just because I'd rather give it to someone I know will do a good job. And there are certain people that can just do really good job. I mean, even by coming on the show, it's like, not only am I going to price you out on some of our jobs going forward, because like, hey, to your point, specificity, noted in what I'm doing with my sauna, why wouldn't I do with that decking as well? It fits something that we do. But even if I didn't, having a good recommendation is very valuable.
Yeah.
And so.
And real estate agents can be good if they're, front of mind thinking about it. But unfortunately, a lot of the times when selling a home, everyone's so focused on the interior. They're like, I can always build the deck later. And they buy this home. It was built in the 70s. It cost $150 to put the deck on, and it was 1,000 square feet.
Right.
Now that deck's $150,000, and the real estate agent doesn't realize it. The buyers don't realize, like, they put that deck up in 1970, and it cost them $1,500. So what we're finding is that they're not. It's not that they're not taking the outdoor living seriously. It's that they're just not thinking about it up front. And then it can be the same thing with custom home builds, where we do a lot of louvered pergolas, for instance. We'll get calls from custom home builders and like, hey, we want to put this louvered pergola up. And even they fall into this trap where they're like, I just saw it at Costco for $1,800. What do you mean it's a $45,000 louvered pergola? I'm like, good luck with the Costco one. You're calling me in 2 weeks. But what we're just not, I'm still trying to figure out a way to get front of mind with those people, with those builders.
I think it becomes a priority thing. I mean, I think we saw that for years in landscaping. When I would do a custom home design for a client, you focus on interior, overall, things that you can't change later. And it used to always be that landscape was one of the first things to get cut, because they always said, well, I can do it later. Yeah. Or like even I haven't done it now in a decade, we used to leave basements unfinished because we could do it later.
Yeah.
It speaks a little bit to a price point. It also speaks to a different type of clientele. But I think as architecture becomes more and more important, I found that even now I work with landscape architects.
Yeah.
And design loves design. Architects love architects. And so I didn't realize how valuable it was, but like a good high-end residential architect loves landscape architects, because the landscape helps reinforce the architecture of the home. In the outdoor living, we don't have as long a season in Minnesota as we do in other, right? You've got 4 or 5 months to really enjoy it. And so you really want to make that space super valuable.
Absolutely.
And especially as we sort of design inside out and outside in. Like, how do we get outside of the home and enjoy these beautiful days like we're having today?
Yeah. And what I find with landscape architects is they're kind of in that same boat where they're starting to realize all the cool things you can do outside, but they're still very focused on plants, lights, and pavers. And it's like, okay, and outdoor kitchens. But it's like, okay, what about a louvered pergola? What about a detached pavilion? Or what about like all these different things that you can do now that they're just, especially with the louvered pergolas, they're still so new. It's construction, everybody takes 20 years to get with the program, but getting front of mind with those people as well is going to be super critical for us as we go forward. Just letting them know what's even possible. Yeah.
Last question here. We're a little over on time, but it's a good conversation. What is one thing that you've taken with you from your cabinet shop? You just have a very unique path, from cabinet shop into outdoor living spaces and your decking. What is something that you feel like the cabinet world helped you and sort of helped set you apart in what you're doing now?
Probably precision, but also technology. So I very quickly was like, if I'm going to set up a cabinet shop, it's just going to be me and maybe one other guy. Like, I want a CNC machine. I want the tools to make me be able to make really good products at a reasonable rate. I knew I was never going to be like a production cabinet builder, but I very early on got a CNC machine. So that's just an example of I wanted us to be very technology driven in our deck building as well. So like the plans that I give to my crews, for instance, they're 3-dimensional plans. They're not just flat plan. I'm trying to give them all the tools that they need to build this $150,000 backyard that we just sold and have it come out correctly.
I think that's what AI does really well too, on top of, with the rendering technology of what your actual base technology of, CNC machines and CAD drawings and things like that. But sharing the vision with what you're going to do helps everyone get on board with what you are doing. And not only from a selling standpoint, of course, for the clients, but, we often forget, I don't think we have to sell our people, but especially if you're creative and it's in your head, how do you share that vision with not only your employees, like you talked about in the beginning, of like, you want to make sure that they're the right culture fit, but honestly, what are we doing this together? And also getting their buy-in. They're going to bring forward ideas too.
Yeah. We actually, the way our sales process works, I know we're over on time, but we do a consult, we present an estimate, we don't send them. Nobody's getting emails these days. You're coming to our showroom and if you're not bought in, then we're not working together, because
Love that. I love that.
I don't know what I can do for you if you're just like, send me an email along with 6 other guys. Just in the space that we're in, it doesn't work out well. Anybody who wants to move forward does what we call a planning and design phase. We won't take anything from you other than $750 to do a design, a rendering, a plan. I want to know how many screws I need on this project. I want to know how many steps
That's your pre-construction agreement, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. But we've had clients come to us and been like, listen, the deck is 12 by 12. It's right outside. And we're like, no, we're doing this because there's no way you're coming to me later and saying, I don't know that's what it was going to look like. Yeah, you do. Because
it buys you peace of mind.
The renderings are in your contract. So
I love that.
Yeah.
It also weeds out the people you don't want to work with immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if they're not willing to pay $750, they're not going to spend $30,000 on a new deck.
Yeah, exactly. And the $750 comes off the $30,000. So it's not like, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And if you want to, you can take that and go get proper quotes from everybody.
Yep. Get it done right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. And thanks for the insight.
Sure. This was fun.
All right. Every Mondays and Thursdays, Curious Builder. Tell your friends and check out Lakeside Decking. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth. And with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.